Hillsy, do you come from a family of gooners or is it mixed?
It's,
it's a good question, this one for you.
It's a classic question. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my hands up, and I've never said this before.
So we've got an exclusive.
Right? We've got an exclusive. My good mate, Terry Greenwood, who I go all over to the European games with and the Arsenal with every game, he knows this, but not many others do. I say I was born in North London, but I was actually born in Tottenham, Kev.
Right.
Yeah. And my mum and my dad and my granddad and my nan and most of my aunts and uncles were all Tottenham fans, you know?
Right.
But I had one uncle, mate, my Uncle Pat, man, my Uncle Pat. He was a gooner, big Arsenal fan. And one day, as I just said, it was 1970, as I've just said, he took me to the Arsenal, right? He said to me, Dad, can I take him to the Arsenal? And I think my dad swore at him a few times. I said, yeah, go on, take him. He'll never like it down the Arsenal. And, mate, I can still remember, you know, you don't walk into Highbury as it was and not remember it, because it was the most beautiful thing on this planet, that stadium.
Yeah.
And I remember it. And I never looked back, mate. Never changed. Never changed.
I love that, Hillsy. I love that.
Yeah.
Listen, and you know what? You're in enemy territory, but the Arsenal burns bright in your head, doesn't it?
Yeah. I used to have an Arsenal jumper that I wore to school, right? Oh, it used to get me in so much trouble. Because not only were the kids, but most of the teachers were Spurs fans as well. So they used to give me detention for being an Arsenal fan. I got on more than one occasion.
And that was George.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, you know, it's interesting because at that time when he was buying all these, like, for want of a better phrase, at the time we thought average players, right?
Yeah.
It was slightly concerning, and he thought, what way is he heading here? And the few stars we had, they were soon gone. By the way, I must say, I'm sorry, Kev, get well soon, Kenny Sansom, by the way.
100%.
Thoughts are with him, mate.
Yeah,
thoughts are with Kenny. I don't care what troubles anyone got. Get well soon, Kenny.
No,
all the best.
Big time.
Yeah, and you're right. All these players that we hadn't known or hardly heard of just suddenly became that team of youngsters and experience, and it was a pleasure to watch. You couldn't wait for the weekend to come round, you know. I mean,
Saturday, 3 o'clock.
Oh, recent years, I've at times, very recently, I've not had that feeling, Kev.
Yeah.
You know, I had a good few years where I didn't go to the Arsenal because you have young family and as a fan, other things take over.
Yeah.
But that feeling in them George Graham days, you just couldn't wait. You couldn't sleep on Friday night. You know?
Excited.
Yeah. And of course, George, people forget, George very nearly coached the first Invincibles, you know. We lost one game at Chelsea.
In 91. Yeah.
1991
season.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, maybe you used it whenever you got to Anfield, you got up on the train or whatever. But on the East Lancs, there used to be a massive pub on the East Lancs. But it was a blue pub. So as the coach left Anfield, all the Blues are doing the conga, blowing kisses at the Arsenal boys, and giving it all that. And he said he remembers the night, rang his mate up, they went out and had an absolute unbelievable night because obviously we'd pipped Liverpool to the title.
Yeah. It's funny you should say that, Kev. I know the East Lancs very well because my in-laws live up at St. Helens.
Oh, right. So you all know it, yeah.
We go across the East Lancs. And my father-in-law is a massive Man United fan.
Oh, jeez.
He's still same as you now. He still says, "I'll never forget that 1989. Thank you very much, Arsenal." Thank you very much, Arsenal.
There's some real hatred there between them boys.
How did we go from being this great big side that people were scared to play? You know, I'm gonna say the Vieiras and the Adams and the Bolds and the Keowans. How did we go from being that great big side that had almost won a game before when it went on the field to being this small side that wouldn't put a tackle in, that couldn't kick a ball? Was it the Arsenal that changed, or was it football that changed? Because we got left behind, I think.
Yeah, look, I don't think it's football just changing. I think the dynamic of how much money do we have, that recruitment that Arsene Wenger could do, getting the gems, that dried up a little bit as well. But I think there's one main factor in all this: David Dein. David
Going.
Dean.
Yeah.
David Dean he wanted Arsenal to win, and he wanted Arsenal to win well. So he was Arsene Wenger's biggest exponent. He wanted to make sure Arsene, here you go, you've got the players you need, and Arsene he can work with that. But then there come a time where we became from a big side, as you're rightly saying, 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", 6'4". We were like 5'6", 5'7", and we struggled against powerful teams. We really did.
We did. We got bullied. I mean, just recently I can remember going to watch us play at Brighton and at Southampton, and they couldn't play football really, but they bullied us, Kev.
Yeah.
They beat us because they bullied us.
Yeah.
Do you know, you talked about David Dean. I'd love to meet David Dean because he's a great man in my head. How much of an impact did he have on you players directly, mate?
It was incredible. My first dealings with David Dean was really when I was about 15 years old. I was getting called in to go with the Arsenal youth team. Merce was in the Arsenal youth team at the time. He was like 17, 18. I was 15 years old. And going to the youth team, for me, it was brilliant. Wow, under 18 football, fantastic.
Yeah.
And I always used to see David Dean there. You imagine, you're seeing the vice chairman of Arsenal there, and he'd speak to you and he'd shake your hand and all that kind of thing. You just thought, wow, what a fantastic guy. And then the next season I joined as a YTS, and then you're playing, and then you start to understand, he comes here and then he shoots off with about 20 minutes of the game to go because he's got to get back to Highbury, and he goes around the dressing room and he meets the players, and, that's a fixture. He's a fixture in your life.
And that makes you think as a player, this bloke's got my back.
Exactly. He cares.
Yeah.